You're listening to The Journey with Ellie and Erin. Join us every week as we talk about all the things woo, wise and wonderful with our guests and have the bigger, braver, bolder conversations that women should be having so that we can be the change the world needs. Hello and welcome back to The Journey with Erin and Ellie. Ellie and Erin? I think it's Ellie and Erin officially, isn't it?
I think it is.
but I'm always
exactly
the one that talks
first.
So I'm going to nail it and say Erin and Ellie today. But yeah, welcome back. Another week. As always, I am Erin and that is Ellie. And this week, I am extremely excited to share with you a very, very dear friend, soul sister, and just genuine awesome person, my good friend Shannon Olsen, who joins us from the freezing cold space of Canada today. She tells me it's extremely cold there today, not at all jealous and kind of terrified to go there. I'm just going to read out her bio really quickly and then we'll dive on in. So Shannon is a spiritual mentor and trauma coach, an angel medium for her team of 8 angels. She channels direct divine guidance for herself and her clients from those angels. She is a 2-time Amazon best-selling author, a crystal and Reiki practitioner, and the founder of a spiritual business called Vibrations of Light. Shannon is here to awaken, heal, and guide conscious visionary women to skyrocket their self-worth, completely transform the way they see themselves, and unlock the next level version who is empowered, fulfilled, inspired, and fully trusts in themselves and their decisions without second guessing, because they are tapped into their divine power to find their unique purpose to create a life of abundance, joy, passion, and love without getting held back by the fear that arises with change. That was the longest sentence I've ever read in my entire lifetime, but so freaking worthy because what you do is incredible. Welcome, Shannon. It's nice to have you here with us. How are you going?
Oh, I'm wonderful. I'm so excited. Thank you so much for having me, ladies. It's an absolute honor to be here and chat with you. I always love visiting and I love chatting about all of, especially this spiritual woo-woo stuff that I'm just so into and I could just talk about forever. So I'm super excited to dive in and share and just see where this goes. I want to talk about all of the things. Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, this is like the first time that you've really had a proper opportunity to chat to Shannon, I think, Ellie. Is there anything that you want to start with?
Yeah. The first thing I want to know is your team of 8 angels. How, where, and when did you find them, connect with them, and who are they? And tell me more. Sounds amazing.
Yeah, that was actually part of the beginning of my journey when I really started to awaken and really started to tap into that higher consciousness and kind of really start to dive into myself. And I really started with automatic writing, actually. And so when I was just starting to, like I said, dive into the spiritual side and start, doing a little bit of meditating and trying to really figure all this out, right? Because, in the spiritual journey, there's like 9,000 doors that you can open and go into. And so when I first started, it was, I just felt really drawn to writing, which I'm not a journaler. I never have been until actually I started this. And so I would just, write a question, like just a simple question, like, what do I need to know right now? And then I would just kind of sit there and just listen to what kind of came through and just write it down. And it sounds absolutely crazy. I know that. And so it was a while of doing that before I kind of figured out that I don't think these are like my words. Like it wasn't coming out in sentences that were like the way I speak. And so I'm like, okay, there's, something or someone else that's channeling here through me. And so, just through practice and through, really kind of tracking on how that was coming through and what I needed to do and what that looked like and how to make it consistent, I was able to finally ask, who is this? And what I got was this, like an angel council, like it's a team of 8. there is no separate names. It's my angel council. I use them to connect to other people's team and just channel through. And so when I use them, I'm able to just literally take someone's name. Like I just need their first and last name, and I sit and I connect in and I ask whatever it is they want to know. And then it just flows through me and I write it down and I give them like word for word this angel guidance, which is just amazing. It's so deep. It's so healing. It's so supportive, and it's just so, soulful. Like it's that real deep soul connection that hits you in the heart when you read it, if you know what I mean.
Oh my goodness, that sounds so awesome. Can I book myself in for a session, please?
You really should.
Absolutely.
It's amazing. Like I've had a reading from Shannon, and it's like when you think about angels, and I'm not personally like drawn to or connected to angels necessarily. I'm much more of an ancestral, grounded kind of thing, but the energy behind it is so light. It's exactly what you imagine angels would be. Like when you read it, you're just like, wow, that feels like it's come from a place of light and a place of illumination and all of those things. It's really incredible stuff. And so absolutely book yourself in, Ellie. And Shannon, I think, like, I love that you trusted the journey that you went through there. Like, it feels like there was a lot of trust being placed in, actually, I'm just going to keep going, even though this feels really weird. And I'm not sure if it's like another personality coming through or what's going on, but it feels very much like you were able to just trust. And I guess my biggest question from that is, how did you get to that level of trust around it? Like, was that something you already had that you were like, actually, I can trust myself here? Or was that something that grew? Or like, what was that like?
Yeah, definitely that something that grew, and something that I haven't really thought about until like this second when you asked me, right? Because it's been for so many years that it's just something that I just kind of am now. And so thinking back to when I first started and what that looked like, I was definitely, like I always believed in, that there was more, that there's, a spirit realm, that it was more than just us humans on the planet. And so when I figured out that it wasn't my words that was kind of coming through when I would, do this writing, I thought, okay, like there is, I am opening up to something here. I don't know what it is. And it was probably a period of months, I would say, of just being consistent with the writing, with the connecting in, with trying to just, like you said, hold that trust without really knowing. It was a very much leap into the unknown, but just something told me that I just needed to keep doing it. And the messages that were coming through too, right? Were those supportive messages? Were those words that it was like, okay. And I didn't realize for quite a long time that I was meant to share that out with other people. I just thought, oh, okay, cool. I got some messages for myself. So whenever I need to check in with someone, perfect, And so it took me a while. And it was one of my very first mentors that actually said, well, can you do that for someone else? I'm like, no. Not like, well, actually, I haven't tried, but I'm like, how would that even work? And so I asked, right? And then it's just like kind of went from there. It's like, yes, you can. All you need is the name, right? And so it was a huge test in my trust in myself to start to offer that to other people. As I'm sure, like you guys know, right? When you have an intuitive reading or message to pass, it's scary because it's like, you could be like way friggin' off and somebody could be like, what the hell are you talking about? Right. But so in terms of like putting myself out there, I was very much nervous about, I don't ever meet over, like the majority of my clients I've never seen. And so for me to just write this deep message, this really deep, inspiring and healing and, digging into the depths of somebody's soul really, and firing it off on an email was like, holy shit, like this is really scary. And so, it was definitely a huge learning, curve for myself in learning to keep that trust and just getting that validation back that, wow, from other people, saying like, yeah, that was bang on. Like, I don't know how you knew, or, all the things, as, I'm sure you understand. So it was like just that same kind of journey of learning to trust and just, knowing that there's something bigger at work, and knowing that I just needed to be open to serve, and that the rest would just kind of unfold as it's meant to, right?
Yeah, that's so interesting to me, because I'm like the polar opposite. Like, I couldn't do it for myself at the start. I could do it for everybody else, and I couldn't do it for myself. And I was like, this is really, uncomfortable. And then trying to trust what came forward for me, for myself, was so much harder, because I was like, but that's just my ego, or that's just this, or that's just that, I know too much. Whereas like people that I'd never met, I was like, well, I can just trust what's coming through, because how else would I know? So I find it really interesting. You're like the complete opposite in that respect.
Exact opposite.
Yeah. How about you, Ellie? Like, I mean, you are very intuitive in your own right. And I don't think you own that quite as enough.
I was going to say, yeah, but we don't talk about that stuff, and we certainly don't, we don't trust me to, channel or any of that stuff. And it's really interesting hearing you guys talk, because there is a deep sense of like uncomfortableness with it. But at the same time, I think I can do it. But even just saying that is like massively like, imposter syndrome, all of the things. And yeah, it's really interesting. It challenges me on a whole different level, but I know that, and it's interesting you talk about the writing, Shannon, because I think that's probably my way of connecting with it, but I avoid it like the plague at the moment.
True story.
Then I've actually got to do something with it. So I love that you've been able to do that, and how important mentors have been to help you like understand that you have this gift to share with others. And the other thing that I really enjoyed hearing is that need to serve. And I think that's what we forget, is that actually this isn't coming from a place of ego. It's actually coming from a place of serving and helping others. And if we're in that space, then it makes perfect sense that we can do this and that we can share our gifts and all of that. But at the same time, there's a whole heap of conditioning that we have to work our way through. And I guess my question for you is, how did the people around you respond to the fact that you could do all of this stuff? Because I know that for Erin, that was one of her big fears, was people would find out that she could do this stuff, and then, whoa, what would that mean? And would they judge, and would they like? And so many questions. But how did that work for you?
Yeah, absolutely. That was, I think my same challenge was not wanting to come out of my spiritual closet for so long. And so I was really channeling for myself for quite a long time, I would say, before I, tried with my mentor. And then I slowly started, just with a very small group of people that were on my Facebook page that kind of knew that I was into spiritual stuff, not my profile, not my, hometown friends and all those people who actually knew me my whole life. Right. And so it was, I had a couple of years probably before I really stepped out fully, like on my social media to, people, and just be like, yeah, you know what? Like this is what I do. It was a big, like conditioning, like you were saying, that to overcome, to really know that I had to step through that fear of visibility, because the message and the mission that I am here for was so much more valuable, so much more important than this fear that was holding me back. And so again, just in that energy and in that idea of just knowing that I'm here to serve in some way, and that I need to honor that, and that every time I take even the tiniest step, I'm, rewarded with that validation, that fulfillment, that I'm like, okay, that felt so good. I'm just going to keep going. But yeah, absolutely. The probably most challenging part of my journey was that step out to really let the world know that, I'm into these things and this is what I do. I was a healthcare worker my whole life. And so completely nothing to do with any of this. And so it was very much huge growth for me in personal development, being able to, finally honor myself and where my heart was leading me.
And that talking about the journey and that it takes time, I think is so important, because we were just talking about this earlier, is being able to honor where you are in any particular phase of life, and actually being okay with it not being all sorted and all out and going and doing all of the things. Knowing that it's going to happen, I think, is really important. And it's something that, I'm the sort of person who I wants everything done yesterday. And when I'm on a mission, like, we are getting this shit done today and we're not stopping until it's done. And that's very much the way I do. And I think that's where I struggle in terms of connecting with that sort of deeper connection to, higher self, spirit, universe, is that I don't get to see the instant results from it. So I then am allowed to get, like, my mind gets involved. It's like, well, it can't possibly be working, blah, 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 blah. But then that stops me from doing it. So it's really interesting hearing you say these things, because it's just reiterating lots of messages that I've been having anyway. So thank you very much for coming on and just validating me for a moment. So
yes,
it's all about
absolutely.
Ellie.
All about me. I hope you haven't realized that.
I have a couple of questions for you, Shannon. The first one is, like, in terms of timeline, like, when did all of this kind of come in for you? Because, obviously some people are like me and don't, even think about this sort of stuff until they're like almost 40. And then there are other people who, always know that there is something that they are connected to, something that, that kind of stuff. Like, how long ago are we talking about for you? And, like, when you're thinking about the journey, I guess, when is the time that you feel like you sort of stepped onto this path?
Yeah, absolutely. This is my big first story that I shared with the world in one of my books, but it was the spiritual awakening that I went through when my dad passed, and that was just 12 years ago. And so I always knew that I was always drawn to mediumship and all the shows and all the things, and like I said, I always knew there was more. There was always, it was never a doubt that there was, beings in the spirit realm, and that we're not alone here. We have, our support and stuff. And so really, when my dad passed and I started, diving deeper into this, is when I, like I said, was awakened to those, the channelings, the writings, right? That didn't even cross my mind until then. My goal was to basically just see where everything went. I had an interest in crystals. I had an interest in energy healing and energy work. And so for me, the mediumship part and the angel channel was like not even on my radar. I didn't even, think of such a thing that would be for me until I really just kind of allowed myself to be in that journey, go through whatever process I needed to. It was very much up and down. I would be into something for a couple of months, and then I would do nothing for 6 months, and then I would pick up another spiritual book and read it and be all excited about it again. And so I had to really just learn to, like Ellie was saying, like, take that step back and just honor where you're at, knowing that it can't, looking back now, it couldn't have unfolded any different for me because I wasn't ready. You always have to do those, other little, whatever personal growth and expansion that you need to do in order to be ready to fully, accept and be in that next level and be able to offer that in the way that, in the energy and in the, way the level of service that you're meant to, right? If I would have tried to rush that or be, really frustrated in that, how come I can't hear, dead people, right? How come I can't do that? How can I try and force this? How can I sit there and I didn't, all of those things that our mini mind does, plays those games in our head about, wanting to rush and wanting things right now, is really just, kind of almost like, I think of it as the universe's way of just like putting the brakes on for us and just be like, hold on, like, you still have to do this before you're able to fully embrace this, right? I needed to go through such a healing journey before I was able to have that confidence to step through the fear of visibility, to step through that fear of judgment, to step through that fear of failure, and really put myself out there, start my business, and do all the things, right?
Nice. Yeah, I think that's really important. Hey, like timing and patience, which, you know, for someone like me, I'm a Taurus, so I don't have a lot of patience. Like when I see where I'm going, I'm just like gone. But like I do think that timing plays an incredible part in our journey, whether we recognize it or not. So the other question I had for you, and this is a question I think that we haven't asked on the podcast before, but I think is something that comes up for me more and more, is like, you're a mom, you've got two gorgeous children, similar ages to mine, so a little bit older than Ellie's. How do you support their spiritual journey as they're getting older? Like, are they curious about what you do? Do they engage with what you do? Do they have their own thing? Like, how does that play out in your household? Because I mean, like, ever since the first time that I spent any time in your energy, I've known that it's special. Like, it's a different kind of energy. You're light, you're generous, you're compassionate, you're kind, and that comes across in the energy that you put out into the world. So to be in the household must be like a phenomenal gift, first and foremost. But how does that play out for you? Is that something that you talk about openly with the kids, and is it something they engage with, or how does that look?
Yeah, that's a good question. And of course, thank you for those very beautiful, kind words. I received that with deep gratitude, Erin. Yeah, it's something that I also just thought, you know what? It was part of that journey of this is me, and I'm not going to put myself in these certain identities, these certain roles, and keep certain things from my family. And so my children know fully what I do. They're not going to be able to like be like, oh, she helps, women connect to themselves and all that. But they know that I coach women. They know that I help, and they know that, I'm into the crystals. I started taking them to the rock shows, they call them, like for years now. And so that's something, right? I know, Erin, you take your kids to the store too, right? And just basically giving them that freedom to explore and, without pushing, and just being open. And when they have questions, I answer the questions, right? They see me walking around the house with my sage, right? Or whatever it is. And my son's like, can you smoke my room? Where's your feather smoke? I like that stuff, and so it's very much, open in that way. And I feel like for me, that really works, because then it just goes back to that old identity of trying to hide who I am. And I'm just not that person anymore. I'm not in that energy anymore. And so it's such a resistance if I try. So just stop it. Just stop it, move into who you are now, and just be in that energy, be in that identity of just being openly aligned and connected, and just sharing and serving in however that looks. And so if they are curious, I will absolutely answer a question. I don't hide anything from them. They are very open as well. My daughter is very open to energies and sensing energies. And so I just support her with that, and, ask questions. I don't, really, I just let them kind of take the reins with that on where they want to explore, and just offer that support and being that open, book for them to feel like they can come and ask me those questions, feel like they can say those things if they feel something, if they see something or whatever, they know that they can talk to mom about that, and it's totally cool. So yeah.
Isn't it just so gorgeous when young people just are so able to believe and trust without almost question? And it's really interesting. My eldest, so Emily will be 6 in January, she is complete. And, I've done the crystal courses, and I've done all of the things. I have many of them scattered all over the house. Like, you can't go anywhere without standing on one at the moment, because, the children are doing something with them. they really hurt. But Ems is really into that sort of like whole witch side of things, like nature. She's absolutely going to be something with the world, with the planet, with nature. She's so connected to it. But she also really enjoys, she's got her cloak that she likes to wear, and she'll wear it and she believes in magic, and she's absolutely convinced that fairies exist. And she's really quite pissed off that she hasn't actually seen one, but she knows that they exist. And, and we have these wonderful conversations, and, people at school, obviously, we have lots of conversations about what, a witch actually is, and that it's it's a wise woman. And at school, some of her friends are like, well, we don't believe you can do magic and all of that sort of stuff. And she's so confident in who she is and what she believes to be true, that she's like, well, okay, that annoys me that you don't believe me, but I don't stop believing that it's possible for me. And it's just incredible. And I have to really watch myself to not, allow the conditioning where, like stop me from like continuing to support her. And actually she's helping me be braver, because she's like, yeah, no, I'm a witch because my mummy's a witch. And then I'm like, oh my God, that's really awkward. You've just told school that your mum thinks she's a witch. Oh, bugger, what does this mean? Which is, right? I absolutely believe it, but it's still really like embarrassing. I'm like, God, do they think I've got a cauldron, which I do have, which my husband got me for my birthday. And I love it. But like, what does it all mean? So
oh my God, are they seeing you for who you are?
Exactly. Like, but it's, is that okay? And but I love what you say about how you're helping them, and you're right, just by being able to provide that space for them to explore and not be afraid. And I think I'm probably still, like, my close friends and my family, I pretty much open about all of it, but there's still definitely a hesitancy about it being, I'm not sure I necessarily want the board to know where I am with my spiritual journey, or the committees that I'm on.
I mean, you did just out yourself as a witch on the radio show.
I know.
So,
bugger. Yeah. Own it, right? As I said yesterday, as long as you do everything with a smile and a good sense of humour, people will generally forgive you anything. So that's my approach.
But it's so true, though, right? Like, I think the success that we have as parents comes from guiding children to their own truth, and not, we grew up in a generation where we were told what to think. We were told what was appropriate. We were told what to do. And, we're having to undo that now. And boy, is that hard. And our children have the gift, or like we can offer them the gift of not having to do that. Right? Not having to go through life being told what to think and told what to do and told how to be. We're able to scaffold for them so that they can work that out for themselves. And that, I think, is really cool. And I love that, both of you. And I think I notice that the women I surround myself with all have that same sort of value around how they raise their children, that they embrace their children for their natural curiosity and for their desire to understand themselves and how they want to be in the world a lot more than some of the people that are on the periphery of my world and perhaps don't quite do things that way. So I love too, Shannon, that you're going down that path with your kids. And do you think, like, I'm going to talk about Mr. Shannon now. I won't name him, Mr. Olsen. How, because you and your husband have been together since like high school, right?
Correct.
Like a long, long time. And a lot has changed about who you are and how you are in the world over that period of time. Is that something that he has found with a degree of ease, or has that presented challenges for him around the times when you were like really up leveling? Because I imagine that those were quite uncomfortable for you and for him at times. How has that journey been for him, like in terms of your marriage and your relationship?
Mm-hmm. It's a crazy thing to think about, like a blessing, right? That, like, just coming back to the children and being able to be in this consciousness that we are in, knowing that we can offer, something different than what we had. And like you were saying, and so I'm so grateful, and I'm so, feel so blessed to be able to do that for my children. And also that carries over into my relationships as well. And so what I've noticed is that on a huge level, me just focusing on me and doing my own thing and just doing, my own journey is healing him too, is allowing him to see too. And so I'm extremely, like I said, blessed and grateful that he is who he is, and being able to, like you said, witness the change in me. Like it's night and day. I think the person that I've become from, however, 20 some years ago, right? To where I am now. And it's definitely been something that used to hold me back, right? That worry, that fear, that, oh my goodness, like, what's going to happen to my partner? What's going to happen, when I start talking about this, when I start doing this, like, what are they going to think? Are they still going to, are they still going to love me? Are we still going to be close? Or what's going to happen? And I think that, that's something that comes up a lot. And I just noticed, like, even just in my community and in talking to, the like-minded people, that it's very common fear to have. And that would hold a lot of people back from that self-discovery fully, right? Just that fear alone of being like, okay, I may lose something that I have if I go down this path, or I may not, right? It's coming back to that trust and just knowing that all you have control of is you, and how you are going to show up in the world, how you are going to, honor yourself and honor your soul's pull, and trusting that the rest is going to, unfold the way is in line, right? My husband, for example, not saying that I shouldn't say ever, but in my mind at this point, he's not going to be the guy that's going to sit down and meditate with me or do a yoga class or all the things, right? But he is the guy that is completely accepting of what I do and, kind of evolved with me. And so it was something that it felt like I had to almost open that door and lead the way and just, okay, we're going to go on this journey. You're going to just be the observer. And in doing that, in seeing how I'm growing and how I'm changing, he can't help but change too, because I'm a different person in that relationship. I'm reacting differently. I'm showing up differently. I have a completely new perspective on things. And so that changes, the way everything is between two people. And so when you're able to just stay in that honor and trust of yourself and in your own journey, in your own lane, and just, trusting that you will be guided where you're meant to be, and who is meant to be around you will still be around you. They evolve with you, right? And so it was really another fear, basically, that I had to step through. That fear of, what if he doesn't come with me? What's going to happen, right?
Yeah.
And just knowing that, honoring myself was what I needed. That was my lesson. That was my journey. That was the whole reason for this awakening, is to come back to truth and come back to myself. And so when I realized that was what I valued, that was what my mission was, and let go of the need to figure out or control the rest, that's when really you can open up to that magic of what the universe has to bring in for you. And that's when things start to really evolve and shift and really surprise you in crazy, crazy ways. So that was a long-winded answer. I'm sorry about that.
No, it was a beautiful answer. And I've just got a very quick question before, and maybe you still have elements of, but before you really started doing this work, would you have put yourself in the people pleasing camp or the control freak camp?
I would say people pleasing. I was always trying to be the person that I thought other people saw me as.
Yeah.
Right.
Interesting.
And so for me to step outside of that weight of expectation of others and really just, shuck that cloak off of my shoulders for once in my life was a really big shift for me. And that trust that I was talking about was like huge to be able to trust that I just needed to keep going. And, it is a hell of a ride, in a relationship to go through a spiritual awakening and go through this journey. But like I said, when you come back to just that connection to self and knowing that, when you honor that, then you don't place your power outside yourself in worrying about how outcomes are going to be, in worrying about, what other people are going to think.
Yeah. Awesome. Thank you. I'm always just really interested in what the percentage of people pleasers versus control freaks are in life generally. So that's another one on Erin's side.
I loved your long-winded answer, Shannon, and I expected something along that line from you, because you beautifully witnessed and held space for me when I was going through the same thing. I think the key takeaway for me around all of that stuff on your journey and on mine, is when you are going through that kind of spiritual awakening inside of an intimate relationship like a marriage, there is an element of trust needed that the person you are with, if they are the person that you believe them to be, will find a way to follow you in their own way, on their own path, but they will find a way to come back to you. So, because like I felt, and you probably felt to a degree as well, like you were moving away from him, because you were changing, and that wasn't something you were doing together. It was something you were doing by yourself. And that's really, it's almost intimidatory, I think, to be like, actually, I'm just going to go off on my own, and I'm going to go off on my own journey, and I'm just going to trust that we're going to maintain connection because it's strong enough.
Yeah, exactly.
And that can be so hard. So, I really want to honor you for the space you held in my life while I was going through that, but the space that you held for yourself as well. It sounds like you did that really well.
A lot of that actually, because like I was saying, and as we were saying, like it's a common thing, I think, this fear of when we get on the spiritual journey, what's going to happen to our intimate relationships. And so in doing some readings for clients actually around this very thing, what was coming through, and I was like, oh man, this makes so much sense, is, just because you're not on the same spiritual journey, it doesn't mean that you can't be on the same life journey. And so it's like, that was really key for me in thinking, okay, I can still have my intimate partner and be so, strongly connected to him. And he doesn't need to sit and meditate with me. He doesn't need to hold crystals. Like all of those things that we kind of put around when we think about, now we're spiritual. So everybody around us has to be the exact same place and do the same things and have the same beliefs. And it's like, or we can't have a relationship, right? And I think that is one of that conditioning also, right? Like, oh, you're off in that woo-woo spiritual land. Like you're either there or you're not, right? And there's no in between where you can still coexist in a really strong union, in an intimate union together, and be on different places in your spiritual journey. Because when you think about it, what are the odds of connecting with somebody that you're going to exactly awaken with at the exact same time and be like, yeah, oh, right on. We're both mediums now. Perfect. Right. So it's like that would, you have to be realistic in that, trusting that as you go on your own journey, spiritually, you will attract people that you can connect with, right? Such as us right here. You ladies are exactly the connections that I've, attracted in, and I'm so grateful for, so that you could have that support on your journey and still be in that intimate relationship and that life journey together, right?
Yeah.
I love that you've just explained that so well about being on different spiritual journeys, but on the same life journey. That is just like literally dropped into my heart and is like, yeah, amazing. Because being able to understand that people can be different and still have a connection, I think has been lost from society at the moment. We've got so divided when we've got so stuck in the different means bad or different means they're not agreeing with me. And that makes me either right or wrong. And all of these sorts of really, it's just black and white. There's no color. There's no texture. There's no sort of willingness to explore what that could actually mean. And it's such a challenging space to be in. And certainly, I'm very lucky with my husband, is he's, like you talk about yours, is he's very accepting of who I am. He accepts all of the pieces and encourages it. And I'm not sure I'd probably get him to a yoga class. I'm not sure. We've done a bit of meditation, but it's not really, he does it under duress rather than suggesting it that, darling, let's go do this. He'll be like,
cricket coaching in his head while you're...
Is this going to make my life easier? Yes, it is. I will do it for now rather than necessarily coming from a deep want to do it. But I think there's still challenges around his acceptance of me just being me, and on the other side of it, of me being okay with being different as well. There are things that we are going to have deep soul connections, and I believe that he's absolutely my soulmate. But there are also bits in our journey and our path that are really, really challenging. And it's knowing that actually you can get through those if there is that connection, whether it's a life connection, a soul connection, whatever it is. But being okay with, just because you think differently about things doesn't mean that one is right and one is wrong. It's just different. And if we could get more of that in our lives, I just think so many relationships would be so much easier and happier than this constant need to be right. I've got one more question before Erin asks her special little questions. What next for you, Shannon? You've had such an amazing journey so far in terms of your connection to spirit, to everything. Like, what are you working on now? Where are you headed?
Where am I headed? The past couple of years, especially the past year, I would say I've done a lot of deep healing and deep trauma work and things. And with that came such a clarity around my mission, my message, my vision for, what I want to create. And that really is to do all about recovering the relationship to self and really, guiding women to do that. Because at first, I thought, okay, well, I meant to just, pass the angel messages and that's all cool. But the more I went along my own journey and did my own healing, I realized how impactful and how powerful these shifts are, and how it's like, other women need to know how to do this. They need this in their lives. And so this work is just really, it is me. Like, I'm just really stepping into embodying that place, that being of showing women how to come back to themselves, how to connect back, all about that self relationship. And so I'm expanding in terms of, the coaching, in terms of where I want to look to the future I'm putting together a multi-author book now on transformational journeys for women. And I'm just looking and just being really open to opportunity, to things that are going to align, and really just, allowing myself that space to explore and not really hold myself in that box anymore that I was in for a while of, okay, I'm a medium and this is what this looks like. Instead, it's like, no, I'm more than that. And I'm just really embodying that place and that energy right now, and just, honoring where it's leading me in terms of how I show up and how I'm going to serve. And that, just like I said before, it comes down to that, basically, how can I serve today? And what does that look like? And just being open to being shown, because like I said, especially with this book project, that is something that never would have crossed my radar a couple of years ago that I would be doing. And so, I'm just super excited to step out even further and just really offer this work and this powerful impact that this relationship to self has when you connect back in, when you that whole self-discovery and development and healing journey is just absolutely amazing.
Wow. I can't wait to witness and follow more of what you're doing, because the energy that you bring to the world is just beautiful and delightful. And I hope this is the beginning of many more fruitful conversations, because certainly I've thoroughly enjoyed hearing about your journey, and thank you for being so open about sharing it. Erin, you've got your special questions now, haven't you?
Yeah, some random questions for you, Shannon. This one's going to be a hard one for you, I think, because I know you're a book lover. But what book do you wish you had written?
Ooh, what book do I wish I had written? I
mean, we've just had a woo-woo conversation, but it can totally be true crime if you want.
Yeah, no, I know. I'm thinking, I was like, oh, that is like a tough question. It's funny because I would think that I would be drawn to some sort of angel book, but it's more along the lines of just the personal journey, the personal transformation. And so I really, I don't know if I have one specific book that's coming to mind that really changed my life. I have a lot that I've read that I really feel like contributed to opening my eyes in different ways to explore different things. And there is an awakening book that I really it's by Dr. Erin Fall Haskell, and it's called The Awakening. I don't have it with me, but that is a book that I do align with in terms of like just what that journey looks like. Mine would of course be a little bit different, and will be, I'm sure, coming out in the future as I'm working on that. But yeah,
Cool.
I don't align with one specific book being me yet, only because I have my own expression and way of sharing my message. So
Cool.
Yeah.
If you could invite 3 people, living or dead, to dinner, who would you invite?
My dad. I really, these are interesting questions, special questions, right? It's like, who would you invite?
And because you've listened to every episode of the journey so far, you know them really well and had time to prepare, right?
Yes, absolutely. I think definitely I would invite my dad. I would invite my husband's mother, who's also passed. Those are 2 really special people that I would love to just have my children connected to and have them meet. And then, it's funny. I've had so many people that I am inspired by, that I've read books on, Rebecca Campbell and Gabby Bernstein and all of the, Doreen Virtue. But it's like, I almost am at the place where I just want to be like, with my own energy for a while and allow myself to discover even more. Does that make sense? It sounds weird, but I'm like,
perfect.
I without being, just being able to be in my own lane for a while. And I've really tapped into that energy very recently in freeing myself from external influence for a while, just to be and just to really awaken to who I am fully. And
Next level.
yeah.
Next level. Nice. All right. The next question. what do you want your 90-year-old self to be able to say to you?
I want her to just say that I did what I was meant to do here. Like, I really feel like it took me a while to get to this place to feel like I didn't, like, I was like, oh, I wish I would have, done this sooner. I wish I would have, had that awakening sooner and talked to angels like 20 years ago. But I wouldn't have had those experiences. I wouldn't be that person to look back and know to share with other people how we put ourselves in those boxes, how we create these identities that we live in unknowingly for so long. And so I would say that my 90-year-old self would be like, you did exactly what you were meant to do. You awakened at the exact time that you were meant to awaken. And, just knowing that I'm spending from now until 90, right, in my mission and in my purpose and calling is going to be enough. Does that make sense?
I can't wait to hang out with your 90-year-old self, just saying. And the last question, what is your guilty pleasure?
I would say, Erin, the true crime stuff. It's like we discovered a while ago, we're like, oh, okay, so we're both like these weirdos together, where it's like, I love watching like true crime documentaries, podcasts, all of the things. And it's like nothing at all to do with where I normally am in my energy and in my focus, right? But it's like, man, I love a good true crime documentary. And I will dive right into that.
Oh, Shannon, I love you so much. Thank you so much for spending your time and your energy so generously with us. I always enjoy spending time with you, and I always learn something from you and about myself. And I'm really grateful for our friendship and really grateful that you joined us on the journey today. Yeah. So, Ellie, do you have anything that you want to add before we...
Just a massive thank you. And it's been such a joy hearing your story and where you've been and where you're going and all of the goodness in and around that. So thank you for your time. It's been, an absolute pleasure.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Thank you so much, ladies.
Thank you. Yeah. That was The Journey with Shannon Olsen. We will have all of the links in the show notes for Shannon so that you can check her work out, so that you can connect with her, follow her. I highly recommend that you do, because she is a life changer and you deserve it. So thank you so much for joining us. We will be back next week. Until then, be well, be safe, and take care.